Sandra all the time is here with the cold hard truth. She's the ears and the eyes for me and you. Every day, everyone want to hear from Sandra. And every time on the air, she's getting better. Tell your sister, tell your brother, tell your mama to call Sandra in the morning and in the evening. They always calling Sandra. And when they start fighting, they calling Sandra. And
That's right, folks. Everyone is telling their mama about the cold hard truth. Welcome to another episode with more truth telling, more problem solving, and of course, more tea spilling than ever before. Sit back, students, grab your tea and turn up the volume because class is now in session. Call in at 936-2626 because your voice matters. Share your opinion on issues that matter the most to you. Good morning, K-Man. How is everybody doing this beautiful Wednesday morning? Hump Day Wednesday. Ron says, I'm not gonna lie, I love that theme song. Thank you so much. Big shout out to Mr. Berman, who actually wrote that song for me. He's written 2 songs for me. Can you believe it? What an amazing talent. We are so lucky to have people like him, Mr. Berman Scott, musician, retired officer, doing his thing in the musical world. And yeah, I love it too. When he did it, I was like, OMG, you wrote a song for me. You made a song for me. I couldn't believe it. And he's like, yes. And then a couple months later, he did me a country song too. I was like, yeehaw. Yes, sir. That's where it's at. All right, honey, chill. Mm-hmm. How is everybody doing this beautiful Wednesday morning? Everybody's good? Everybody woke up on time? Making it to work on time? Or did you wake up thinking, OMG, I don't know. I can barely roll out of bed, Sandy. What am I going to do? Well, I tell you what you're going to do. You're going to get up. You're going to have your bath. Wash your face good, right? Get ready. Put on your good, nice clothes and get to work. What else did you think I was going to tell you? What did Aunt Lotta used to say? Hard work never killed nobody. And I looked at her and I said, I don't know about that. But anyway, we'll take your word for it, Auntie. She said, hard work never killed anybody. Yeah, she used to have some sayings. Early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Y'all heard that one? Mm-hmm. That was one of her favorite ones when it was bedtime. She was like, get to bed. I wish I could get that kind of sleep these days, boy. Yes, sir. But you know, the wisdom of the ages. They had some good sense, those old people. Yep, they didn't necessarily have big degrees in education, but I tell you what, a lot of them had good common sense, because even that saying, you know, is so true. The sleep that we're all sort of skipping on these days is so important. Every single doctor, every scientist and health professional is going to tell you how important that sleep is. Yes, rejuvenation. It allows the body to heal. It helps reduce inflammation, all these amazing things. Well, she may not have knew the science behind it, but she knew sleep was good for you. So she used to say, honey chow, early to bed, early to rise, makes a man healthy, wealthy, and wise. Go to bed early, get up early, and get about your business, honey chow. Mm-hmm. All right. Lots going on. So, I know y'all sitting here going, what is Sandy going to talk about today? What is she going to pick up on? Big shout out to her listeners. By the way, you guys are the real heroes here every morning. Because, you know, I could get up and be talking to myself like some other hosts. I'm just saying. I just saw one person on YouTube watching them, and I thought to myself, is that one person Johan? Y'all know I love to mess with Johan. But in all seriousness, you know, you guys get up every morning with me. Someone messaged me this morning and said, good morning, my dear. Have a blessed day. Looking forward to your daily shows. They make such a difference in my days. Aw, I'm so glad to hear that. That's amazing. Thank you. Really and truly. So let's talk a little bit here. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. Let's talk a little bit about a few things. And there's something that I know you guys think I'm going to talk about that I'm actually not going to talk about. I think Alric may be joining us at some point. I did tell him 7:30, but he might still be sleeping. He's probably not an early riser like the rest of us. So he may still be sleeping, honey chow. But y'all saw the headlines yesterday with Cayman Airways. Yes? I'm not going to talk about it this morning. And there is good reason why I'm not going to talk about it this morning. Honey chow, somebody really start blowing up the number. You have to trust me when I tell you that there is a methodology to what it is that we do. Yes? And I'm just going to leave it at that. Mm-hmm. You just have to trust Auntie that she actually knows what she's doing. Let's see what a few days brings. Okay. Just trust me. Mm-hmm. All right. Beautiful morning. Good morning, ma'am. Yes. All right. So the other thing that I'm sure y'all are sitting here going, is Auntie going to touch on this today? And that is definitely the political announcement that was made last night. Okay, that we will touch on. We will touch on that. Don't worry, honey child. That's coming. Let me just see something here. Do we need to make a little correction? Okay, I got you. Okay, give me 1 second here. Need to just fix a quick little something. Okay, so, yes, yeah. Oh, I see what's going on here. Okay. All right, but the reference URL is not. Okay. All right. Goody. So, lots going on in the political front. Big announcement obviously dropped after midnight last night. I think we sent out the announcement minutes to 1:19 a.m. And if anybody else was up, you would have received that as well. So we're going to look at it, and we're certainly going to talk about it. And I'm happy to say that we have secured them as guests tomorrow on the program. So their first public appearance will be right here on the Cold Hard Truth. So let's watch the video that was dropped last night, and then we shall talk about it, ruminate, put it to our feelings and all that good stuff. Okie dokie, let's do it.
When we were growing up, things were different. We were a tight-knit community. Family lived close by. Neighbors took care of neighbors. But slowly, things changed. Now, it's all slipping away. Cayman is growing too fast, and too many Caymanians are being left behind. We are losing not just our islands, but our way of life. Costs are skyrocketing. Food, medicines, health insurance, housing. Families are struggling to afford basic needs. Today, we Caymanians are a minority in our own country. We learned some hard truths. We saw up close how special interests can control our country. We tried to stand up for what is right, to stand up for our community, and to stand on principle. Sadly, there were too few of us. Enough is enough. That's why we're coming together with people that share our values to form the Caymanian Community Party. This isn't about politics as usual. It's about people. We are a movement built by Caymanians, for Caymanians, and focused on strengthening our Caymanian community. Caymanians deserve the opportunity to vote for a party with a clear set of values and ideals. A party that listens to their voices, represents their values, and stands united in advancing their interests. It's time to make the tough decisions to reclaim the Cayman Islands we all love. We support growth, but it needs to be balanced. We stand for a strong economy. We stand for making sure Caymanians come first in our own country, where every Caymanian now and in the future can afford a home. We stand for fiercely protecting our Caymanian culture, our heritage, our quality of life, and our natural environment. This means addressing the cost of living by transitioning to clean energy, building efficient, affordable homes, and lowering the cost of health insurance. It means transforming our children's education so they can get the jobs they deserve in a rapidly changing world. It means a strong, stable government that gets things done and is committed to fiscal responsibility, good governance, and sustainability. We believe in the power of community to create meaningful change that benefits our people. Join us. We are the Caymanian Community Party, putting Caymanians first.
All right. Wow. A new party. Let's talk about it, honey chow. Good morning, Miss Jean, Shaka, morning. Irvelyn, good morning to all of you. Fresh Joe is here for it. Olivia, Wee Wee, Deborah, Miss Lucille, so good to see you. Patricia Blake in the house, Pat, all the usual suspects. Shaka says, yeah, boy, that generation is full of sayings. Ay, ay, ay. Good morning, Miss Marva Mills, says Jamaica. Mama Marva in the building. Precious lady Sandra, I love you. Good morning. Oh, wait a minute. Jamaica Mama Marva. Are you the one that guy did the No, that was another name. That was some other name. No, I'm thinking of somebody else. All right, Mama Marva. Are you joining us from Jamaica? So nice to see you and have you here. Robert, Miss Morna in the house. Charlene is here as well. Marshall, Dominique, how you doing, honey chow? Miss Vernita says, pleasant good morning, CMR. 100%. I love the new political party with Mr. Panton and Andre. Morning to Emma. Miss Vernita says, true commercial talk the thing. However, we need you all to be bold and do the thing. Too much darn talking and promises. Ooh, honey chow. What did Aunt Lottie always used to say as well? Oh, I need to make a book of Aunt Lottie's sayings. She used to say, talk is cheap. And so, yes, we expect action, and they're going to be coming on tomorrow. And I suspect since the vast majority of them are already in there, they're going to tell us some of what they did and some of what they tried to do. And then, we can take it from there. So it's good to see. So there's a couple of things, and I am of, a couple minds for sure. The first thing is this. Political parties, we've had a few over the years that have gone through the fundamentals of putting themselves together in an organized way. So where's Kyle this morning? Is he in class? Kyle, you with us or you still sleeping? You got to get up now, young man, and get with the conversation. He likes to come at the tail end and be like, what's going on? No. Get up early, honey chow, so that you know what the conversation's all about. He said, well, didn't they do this last time? And I thought to myself, this is when you know that people aren't really paying attention. Because no, they didn't do it last time. What happened last time is you had people from, all walks of life politically came together, and they did not form a party. What they formed was a group to be able to form the government, and they call that group a PAC, the PAC, right? At no point was it a party. What's the difference, you say? Well, there's a real difference. And again, thinking back to my days of, being one of the founding members back in the day of the progressives, the People Progressive Movement, you come together and you try to decipher what it is that you share as a common vision when you are a party. The latter situation of how the PAC was formed, I'm pretty sure they unfortunately probably didn't have any discussions about, are we on the same page with, our beliefs, like where we stand in terms of our belief system. And I suppose that's where there can be a difference. Now, I don't want you guys for 1 second to think that I'm pushing parties down your throat, because again, been there, done that, proceeding with caution, right? The parties are only as good as the people in the parties. I'm just saying. So when you have parties that are being led by egotistical maniacal, people, it doesn't really matter. If those people, as they say, the tail is wagging the dog, if those people have dysfunctional systems, dysfunctional personalities, dysfunctional, morals, the whole 9 yards, you won't get any better than what you got before. And so that remains a very true statement. If they're morally bankrupt, the UDP, how did the UDP start out? Did you guys sit down? I'm curious. I mean, I don't know because I was never part of that party for sure. But did you guys sit down and talk about what vision you had for the country? Or was it all about McKeever sitting down in a somewhat sober moment, claiming that there was somebody out there who was a bigger drunk than him, AKA Kurt Tibbetts? And, we just need to remove Kurt Tibbetts from office. And in order for us to do that, let's form a political party. Because as I recall, that's kind of how it went down. You guys might not remember this. I'm feeling like I'm getting old now that I can remind you younger folks about things that have happened politically in Cayman. And I'm still young, honey child. Imagine those people in their 80s like Miss Mary Lawrence. Oh, she got the full tea and another kettle brewing over on the side. Me, I'm over here with just a little cup of tea, sipping it slowly. Okay. But you guys know how it went down. That was just a power grab situation. So we have to ensure that, I see you found us, Miss Marjorie. Good for you. You have to ensure that at the end of the day, you look closely at the people and they have to be principled individuals, right? Now, this group has been working on themselves and putting this party together for quite some time. This didn't happen overnight. There have been a lot of meetings, from what I understand, lots of discussions about, what was going to play out and how it was going to happen. Now, one of the things, I'm not kept in the loop by the people who you think, my apologies, are keeping me in the loop. If you believe people who are trying to have talk programs, you'd believe that Wayne Pant and I are best friends. By the way, can I just say something about that? I wouldn't mind being Wayne's best friend. He's actually a cool guy. I mean, I think he has, he's a little bit older than me. So I think he has lifelong friends that he's actually best friends with. So we're not best friends. But, I wouldn't put him in the best friends category. Like, you got to kind of earn that. And we know there's only, one person got demoted. So now there is maybe 4.5 people. One person, she's been trying to skirt in for a little minute, but she not nowhere near that yet. You know what I'm talking about, girl. Miss S. I got my eyes on you. But, we can put him outside of that circle because he's actually a very interesting person to talk to. He has a good sense of humor. Like when you talk to him, he has a good sense of humor. He's very down to earth, sometimes a little bit too much so. People were critical of him when he was premier, saying, man, he got to do this and make the driver drive. And he's like, nah, I'm going to drive the driver. That's just who he is, and yeah, okay. That's just who he is. But I must tell you that one of the things I was surprised by, because again, I didn't get any insight, not that I wasn't digging and trying to find out. I mean, I knew as of yesterday, the party name and stuff. I got that early. And no, it did not come from Wayne Panton. In fact, I did call him at one point. I said, I know everybody gonna blame you, honey child. If I say anything, they'd be like, oh, Wayne is the leak. At some point, everybody talks to me, I'll be honest, at some level, I suppose, right? Anywho, I was pleasantly surprised to see that the party leader isn't Wayne Panton and that it's actually Andre. Okay. That says something to me about his humility and the fact that he's willing to fall back. And as these young people out in the streets would say, he's going to allow a younger cat to lead the pack, lead the group, lead the, let me get the name of the party correct now. Hold on, honey child. I gotta remember this correctly. So hold on, let me get it now. It is the Caymanian Community Party. Yeah. So I was surprised by that. And in some ways, I'm not surprised by it because it demonstrates that Wien Panton is very much about trying to move the country forward. He understands the need for younger people to have an opportunity in leadership roles once they are prepared and ready to do so. And I say that with a degree of reservation because there are other people who are younger. They do meet the youthful criteria, but that in and of itself is not enough. It's just like being a Caymanian is not enough. Now, I know some of y'all gonna disagree with me, honey child. You think I'm crazy when I say that being a Caymanian simply isn't enough, but that's all true. Okay? It is very, very true that at the end of the day, folks, being a Caymanian is not a qualification. It might be a foot in the door. Your application should be considered on its merits. What am I talking about? You can't come and sit down and say, well, Auntie, I have no work ethic, no qualifications, no nothing. And still, just because I'm a Caymanian, you better give me that job, because that doesn't fly. And I don't support that type of narrative in any way, shape, or form. Yes? Folks, what happened to my image here? Oh boy, hold on. Is that the wrong one? Give me 1 second, honey child. So at the end of the day, we have, I think, a lot of work to do as a country. And I do think that it is so incredibly interesting that, we have a team that is being led by Mr. Andre. And we have a lot of expectations, obviously, of any political team that comes out, or any individuals, in fact, that come out in this election. The bar is being raised. And it's so interesting to me that, we're raising the bar. And yet one of the most interesting things is that a lot of people are not there yet. There's still a process of, how shall I put this? There is still a process of educating and learning. All of us are in learning mode. And we also have to be willing, I dare say, to also teach each other, what is happening politically in this country. So this is the first group that have come out and made the announcement that a party has been formed. And so we will have, like I said, an opportunity in tomorrow's program to talk to all of them and see what they're all about. The feedback so far from a lot of people is that, it's a pretty strong group. Maybe, one weakish link that needs to get their situation together. And, it comes down again to youthfulness and, Caymanians, young people in particular. You guys can talk the talk all you want, just like Aunt Lottie. She talked a lot of different things, but she also tried to live it. She lived by her principles and lived by what she said. So the things that she would say to me, it was not a contradiction in what she said versus what she did. The things that she said matched what she did. And that's important. Your words and your actions have got to be in alignment. When they're not, and we've talked about this before, certainly on this program, when your words and actions are not in alignment, that is when the people, will realize very, very quickly that you cannot be trusted in the political front or in any aspect, really, of your life. It's important. Okay? It's important. I mean, I sit here every single day. You and I, we feel like we're family. We talk and we have conversations about all sorts of stuff. Now, Cayman is a very, very small place. If I wasn't living by a somewhat principled life, certainly not perfect. I mean, trust me, I will never, ever claim to be something that I'm not, There's something to be said for honesty, and there's something to be said for being willing to accept your flaws. And I know that we all have them. Some are bigger than others. I'm one of those people that I'm like, hey, I'm not perfect. I'm flawed, and I embrace it. You know, that's why when I have my moments, I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever. Let's just keep it moving. Sometimes I'm not even apologizing for that ish because I'm like, this is me. This is the real deal. There are some times that I am cool as a cucumber, like Friday with Lovell. You know, I'm so cool, calm, and collected. And I can bring that aura anytime I feel like it. But there's sometimes I just don't feel like it. I'm like, can I be a little bit naughty? I want to wild out a little bit. You know what I mean? And so here we are. And I think that, you know, in certain instances, circumstances, that's perfectly fine. You can't be wilding out all the time, though. If I was, you know, bat crazy all the time on here cursing every single day, we'd have a problem. You'd really have to question yourself, what the heck is going on with Auntie? Why is she going on like that for? But every once in a while, spice it up a little bit. Cassius says people are sick of promises and stating of the obvious. Yes, we all know what the problems are. What we need to know is how they're going to address them. People are tired of promises. So that is what Cassius, no doubt you all will be putting them to the test on tomorrow. Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. And every single politician, that's their MO. They promise you the sky, the earth, the moon. And then when it comes to delivery time, you're like, okay, what am I getting? A peanut? Me not want no peanut, right? So naturally, that is now your job. You've been showing up to class, Cassius. I know you have been. I know Aliano and Jane and all of you have been. So at the end of the day, right, we are preparing you for when your candidates come on that you need to ask all of the salient questions of them, right? If you've been a good student and you've been paying attention, when we have our guests, yes, we're going to be respectful, but put the hard questions to them. There's nothing wrong with that. We need to know, how do you intend to do this, and this? Okay? It's a rookie mistake, and I see it with other candidates who are already starting to put out some stuff on social media. They're all about sound bites, you know, slogans that sound good, and yet demonstrate to us that you truly understand the problems. I had someone yesterday who was commenting on somebody else's, you know, some stuff they had put on social media. And, you know, some of them are going on shows and talking. They're like, this person does not have a clear, based on the things that they're saying, they do not have a clear understanding of the immigration system, WRC, how it works. And if you don't have a clear understanding of something, that means that your solutions that you may be trying to put forward are even flawed. And so it is important. And this is why, again, young folks, we welcome, I say we as a community, welcome you in trying to be relevant and interested in what's happening in your country. And I think it's great that some of you, you know, have expressed an interest in running for political office. But if you don't have a proper understanding, and everybody has a superficial understanding of the issues, for example, the cost of living. I'm like, okay, you could literally be anywhere in the world. Yes. And you can say that the cost of living is a problem. Even if you're in the most affordable place in the world, for the people that live there that don't have the relevant income, yeah, the cost of living is a problem for them too. So I've got friends who are moving, Portugal, Thailand, they're going all over the place, Caymanians, right? And they're like, oh, you know, I'm going to make it in somebody else's country and I can't make it in my country. I'm like, yeah, that's because, believe it or not, you're going to that country with a bag of stuff that you have already obtained here in the Cayman Islands. So you're already in a very, very fortunate position. You think the average person in Cuba, for example, has $1,200 a month or $1,200 that they can go to another country and travel with? That is, you talking good money status to the average person there. So everything is relevant. You know, when I hear young people making these comments, I'm like, do you understand the economy the world over? Do you understand inflation and what Cayman can't and can and cannot do about these things. Bahamas last week, I don't know if you guys saw that article. They actually, is he a premier? Hold on, let me see what his official title is. Let me get it right. He issued a statement that he was reducing the value added tax on their food goods. Let me just see what's his official title. Is he a prime minister? Hold on one second. So he's making a reduction on that for, yes, Bahamian prime minister. He's a prime minister. Announced a VAT cut on all food items. Because again, just like everybody else all over the world, they are suffering with the same double-digit inflation, and it has impacted food and fuel more than any other products. And so this is a very, very, very real concern. Right? He says that he's trying to show their commitment to ensuring that all Bahamians have access to affordable, nutritious food. So the solutions are not as easy to come about, especially in the real world where you have, obstacles that sometimes appear insurmountable. Now, I am happy that people are saying that there's a need for cohesion before the election, because at least that gives them an opportunity to start working together as a team beforehand. And you will get to, listen, you guys remember when you were in high school? And maybe even middle school, your teachers would make you do, definitely university, your teachers would make you do group projects. Oh my goodness. And if you're not a team player, you struggled with group projects, admit it. I struggled too, because you had to learn how to get along with other people that sometimes you may not even like that person. Like legitimately, they're the class clown. They're the one who, they think they know everything in class. And you're like, oh God, the know-it-all in class or whatever. So you really were put in a situation where you were forced to work. And a lot of times you didn't get to choose your team. It wasn't PE now. Because remember PE, they let you choose who you want on your team. If you're like team captain and you're playing, kickball or whatever, they're like, I'm going to pick. And the team captain always like, I'm going to pick the strongest person first. Whoever you thought had the most athletic ability, you selected them first. And then the poor kid who was left last was normally the biggest nerd in class, wearing the glasses, no athletic ability. And everybody's like, oh, he's going to make people lose. So nobody wanted that poor little kid. Right? So you got to pick, choose, and refuse. It was a very different dynamic, a very different situation when your instructors or your teachers kind of just threw you in and said, okay, I'm going to put this group together. You, or you went down the line and like, say there was 4 groups and you just call out A, B, C, D, and whoever was in A worked together, whoever was in B, et cetera, worked together. So, that's how it works. And group dynamics can be very, very interesting. You think you know somebody, but when you start working with them, that is when you really, really recognize that, okay, people working in groups have a very, very different dynamic. And so this was one of the biggest things, going back to Kayel's point, this is one of the biggest things I think with the PAC government is that they never had an opportunity because they were not a party and they were not formed by people who say we have a common vision. Let's try to work together. They didn't have much of a choice. That's why McKeever was in the batch. They didn't want him there. A lot of them did not want him there. The person that brought him to the table is the only one that really wanted him there. Other people had big, rifts with him, had cursed him out. Former UDP members who are now in the PAC government, they had some real issues. And so that's difficult to then say, right, put all those issues aside and focus on what is in the best interest of the people of the Cayman Islands. Still a lot of bickering behind the scenes. That's not a cohesive team. That's a team of misfits. Now, I'm not saying that misfits can't get along if they were focused on a singular purpose. And that then comes down to the individuals. How focused can they be whilst setting ego aside? Not everybody's capable of setting their own ego aside. There are times when you join a group, honey child, you cannot be the leader. Even if you have natural leadership capability, somebody else steps forward and you have got to fall back. So I'm pleasantly surprised that Mr. Panton has fallen back and has allowed Andre Ebanks to lead the party. Good morning, caller.
Hey, good morning, Sandra.
Morning, dear. How are you?
I'm very well. Hoping you are too.
Yes, sir.
Sandra, here we go again. I'm listening to your advice. I'm totally in agreement with what you're saying. But isn't that what we've been doing all along? Asking the hard questions and getting answers. Yes, they will tell us what we want to hear.
I'm going to disagree with you, though. I don't know that we have been. I don't know that we really have been, you know.
Of course, when they come around and asking for support and stuff and what they're going to do.
You think that most people ask the hard questions?
Well, you're telling us to do it.
Well, yes, I'm telling you to do it now. But I don't know that a lot of people have done it in the past. They're going to tell us,
they will always say what they want us to hear. This is the problem. And then when you take it as yes, that's what they say they're going to do, then you trust them. And then when they get elected, what happened? Opposite. So that is why I keep saying, give them our manifesto. And when the work comes to be done, they will have to focus on our manifesto and not their own whatever. So I would, well, I know it's probably too late, or maybe in the future we need to change the way that this thing works. Because listen, when we have the district councils and we get all this stuff put together, the people that is running or the candidates that want to represent the various constituencies, they read what the people want in the form of a manifesto. And if they agree to it, they sign it. And when they sign that, then we will vote for that person that signed, because they're signing that this is what they're going to do when they get elected. So when they do not honor that document, then we have something to hold them with. But in this case, when they make a promise and broke it, what can we do?
Well,
nothing. All we can say, well, you know what, the next 4 years, I know you won't get my vote. Hello, a lot of damage can be done in 4 years.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Sandra, I keep saying it. The way we vote, it's in reverse now. We need to change it around. We are doing the hiring, so let them sign our contract. We are the ones that are hiring. They're not hiring us. We are hiring them.
Yes, I understand. But the same thing, you can have them sign a contract. And what does that mean? How is that enforceable?
If they do not honor the contract, they're fired without pay. Simple. Just like any other job. Plain and simple.
But how would you,
oh boy.
I think that's easier said than done when it comes to politics.
And
that is why.
Of course, in this situation, because things would have to change the constitution and whatever else.
Well, not only that, but, that is why you give politicians a certain amount of time, okay? And it takes a lot in any country, anywhere in the world, to remove a political person. Because you wouldn't want to say, well, you promised by this date that we would have this center open and it's not open, so you're at the door, you're fired. Because the fact that it isn't open might not have anything to do with that individual. Are you going to start firing the civil servants too as part of the political process?
When they know the circumstances or the consequences of not doing their job, they will get it done. Simple as that. But when they know that there's nothing that we can do,
but there is something that you can do. But your opportunity comes once every 4 years.
You see my point?
No, but to say that your opportunity should come at any time, I think is near impossible to be able to do. How do you do that?
It is impossible in the present situation that we're in now. Show me
one country.
In the next 50 years when I'm no longer around, I hope it'll be fixed then.
All right. Show me one country that is using your model and it's working.
I don't think that there's a country that's using my model.
And
This is what I'm talking
there's
about.
a
Things need to
reason.
change.
No, but let me tell you, there's a reason why it isn't being used, because it is overly optimistic in how the people can hold political leaders accountable. If it was doable and workable, someone would have it working somewhere in the world, even if it was one country.
No. I'm hearing you, Sandra. Honestly, I'm hearing you. But let me tell you, if something needs to be fixed, whatever it takes to fix it, fix it. If something is not working, it means that it's not working. You have to make it work. So change something, fix something. The problem is, as long as we're in the same situation, nothing's going to change. Remember, I gave the analysis about the cake with the same ingredients and the same recipe. It's going to be the same taste. If you want to change the taste of the cake, change the ingredients, change the amount of time you bake it or whatever. As long as you don't change the recipe and whatever, it's going to come out the same way and the same taste. So they're going to be telling you, oh, if I get elected, there will be no more of this and no more of that. That's a promise. But when they get elected, what happened? They do not honor the promise. And then what do? Oh, you say this is what you're going to do. And you say this is what you're going to do. You didn't do it. You won't get my vote the next time. 4 years, you're going to sit down and wait now. And the damage is continually happening.
All
the
right.
sore is continuing to fester.
Leave me there.
Yes, I want to keep on pressing that issue. 50 years after I'm gone.
Appreciate, I definitely appreciate the sentiment, for sure. I understand. But I think that it is one that comes from a place of, we have to operate in a realistic world. And in fact, there's so few jobs where you can hold, even a real job where you can hold people accountable like that, because there is a process of, okay, you didn't do this. We're going to give you an opportunity. We're going to give you a chance. So most jobs, you don't get fired the second you don't perform or do something. Well, it depends on who you work for, I suppose. But your bosses are like, no, maybe you need more training. Maybe you need more help. Why is it not getting done? Like, there's questions and stuff that need to be asked. So, I think that when something sounds good and it sounds like, okay, if we do that, we are holding people accountable. We're truly holding people accountable. But like I said, if that was realistic and could work, that would be employed. Somebody would be doing it. Okay. We have to be, it's a matter of tempering, living in the realistic world, knowing what our expectations are. A good part of our understanding and of whether someone is accomplishing something or not, and their success in their job, is what our expectations are. And so, in my humble opinion, part of what MPs need to do is they need to manage the expectations of people. And they themselves don't do a very good job of that. So what they end up doing is they do come and make all of these amazing promises. And those promises are not fixed in reality, because they don't tell you. They might have a solution for how to fix immigration, but they're one of 19 people. And if they're a backbencher or in the opposition, there is very little that they can do. Right? So if they're not part of the government, if they're not part of cabinet, they can have all the solutions in the world, all of the great ideas. You elected them with the best hope of the hope of the hope, and they still cannot accomplish very much. So what? You're going to say all they did was talk? Of course, all they did was talk. Your expectations were not properly managed because you don't understand how the process works. And I have people all the time, but Miss Sandy, this minister, and when I say, well, that minister can't do any of that. They can't interfere with the civil service. They sounded like, well, your expectations are not in alignment with reality. And that is a problem. And everybody plays into that, unfortunately. Yeah. So we play into it as voters. How long does it take for a piece of legislation to be passed? You think it happens overnight? There's some emergency instances where it has to happen overnight. The average piece of legislation anywhere in the world takes years to get anywhere. Consultations, drafters, redrafting. Then by the time you get it to the House, you got to revisit it, do this, do that. And so I think that, we also have to be realistic. We also have to understand how government works in a civil service perspective, how the ministerial portfolios work. There's just a lot to me that I think is missing from the equation. Good morning, caller.
Good morning, Sandra.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, man, chiming in. Great subject, because we need it this time now.
Yes.
But I want to ask you a question about this expectation thing that you're talking about,
yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
If my sink is leaking, right, and Thompson is the people who provide the service, and I call them in to do the service.
Yes.
You expect and have expectations that they're going to fix your sink, right?
Yes.
And if they don't fix your sink, what are you going to do? You're going to pay them?
Sometimes you do.
No. In the real world.
No, in the
real world, it's value for money. It's value for money.
You want me to tell you what happens? You want me to tell you what happens in the real world? In the real world, you pay somebody to build you an entire house. And a year and a half in, you got walls that are leaking, windows that are leaking, and you've already paid for the house. So yeah, that's the real world.
But that's cutting corners. That's going to not really credible contractors. Because if you go to Asphaltic or whoever to do certain stuff, they're going to bring it out and do it. So you have to have expectations when you're voting for a leader.
Mm-hmm.
All these people have promises. Okay, it's like let's go back in the past. It's like PPM, right?
Mm-hmm.
PPM. A lot of the members are still there. But how can you have a leader who's gonna, or you're gonna have a worker who's gonna challenge you and tell you only by God's will he's gonna do what you want him to do?
Yeah, that's a problem.
And take the court for it.
Yeah.
But yet we still put them back in.
Well, here's the other thing. Let me say something about this, right? Even at the time that happened and that Alden McLaughlin said only God could.
But he had a party.
Yes.
And nobody stepped down.
And nobody in the party held him accountable for that. So this is what I'm saying. There is a hierarchy of accountability. So if you're part of a party, don't you expect the people in the party to hold you accountable? But the only way that happens is when people are principled and they know what they stand for and they're willing to stand for those principles over personalities. Right?
Well, basically, Sunday, as a leader, if I can choose a leader, it's somebody who has to be accountable for his actions.
Yes.
And if you're going to give me a manifesto to say, okay, I'm going to make all things great for Caymanians, and you go in there and you do all things great for everything else but Caymanians,
yes,
then we have a big problem. So we have to have an expectation going in any fight.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to take on something I'm not sure I'm going to win.
Mm-hmm.
Or why take it on? That's the craziness. So why am I going to vote for somebody who I believe in my heart is not going to do the right thing? I have no expectations for.
Yes.
It's impossible. So don't tell people say they don't have expectations because promises are made to fools.
No. I'm not telling you not to have
promises
expectations.
Are always made to fools.
What I'm saying to you is that your expectations have to be managed and they have to be realistic, right?
100%. But if somebody come and tell me that they're going to help Cayman do this, and they go in there and they sit down with their thumb and do nothing, and I can't have no kind of action to take them out of there, that's wrong. As the caller before said, we have to hold them accountable.
Yeah,
they have to know that like if I'm at work and I'm not performing, I'm on probation first of all when I get a job, and then if I'm not performing, I get a letter. Then I get a next letter. Then I get a dismissal. It should be some kind of order like that, something for them to answer to, because for too long, we the people of the Cayman Islands have had zero representation. Zero. Look at the country. If the country on this trajectory for the next 15, 20 years, there's nothing left for the future of Caymanians to come. Think about it. We're selling things to people who have never come here. They're giving them total ownership, and they're not it's like money don't mean something to some people who have it, you know. So you could acquire just to acquire, because like certain people have so much money, the bank tell you, oh, we can't keep no more of your money because the insurance is uninsurable. So you have to invest it or spend it. Yeah. So they buy these properties and they just hold them. And it makes it less properties around, so it makes it a higher value for the Caymanian people to acquire. And this is what's been happening for too long. So we need people, representatives in the house that we can hold accountable for what's going wrong and what's going right. And like I tell them, me, if they want my vote, they have to try to turn back the role of a policy. We are in a society that is heading on a downhill because we import cheap labor. I can talk the hard stuff. We import this cheap labor because we want to keep prices down. But yet at the end of the day, we give them a opportunity to stay here because we give them 9 years. So automatically you qualify to be here. And you're going to live in the second highest cost of living in the world, where you're making $6 an hour. You have to go to NAU. So why am I going to destroy my infrastructure with that for? So if anybody wants to fix that or wants to vote for me, and anybody else out there as Caymanians, think about in the future, make them roll that back to 7 years, 6 years, anything but below that 9 years, so you don't automatically qualify. Because what are we fooling this place with? Not Caymanians, because the last time I checked, we're like maybe what is it, a third? 20% of our whole population? Come on. That's genocide.
But thank you, caller.
Thank you too.
Again, I'm going to help y'all manage. We have to be realistic, right? And you need to, we've got to manage our expectations. Okay. Here's the thing. I'm going to give you an example. When I went to the doctor the other day, I told you all my A1C number, too close to the borderline, got to do something about it. Rome wasn't built in a day. Yes. I didn't get that A1C number where it is in a day, a week, or even a year. It has been some time of making really poor decisions about my diet, really poor decisions about not exercising and not just getting enough sleep and all these other things. So the doctor says, this has got to change. And I'm like, yes, it's got to change. Is it going to happen overnight? Is it going to happen in 2 months? No. You start the process. So I agree with all of the callers. We have got systemic issues that have existed for a very long time. You think this issue of importing cheap labor just started yesterday? Just started last year? Just started 4 years ago? No. Take a look around. It has been going on for 30, 40 years. Now, you could argue that where we were getting the people from has shifted. So at first, you were primarily getting all of your cheap labor from Jamaica. Now you're getting, 50% from Jamaica, 25% from the Philippines, 10% from Canada, another 7% from the UK. So there might be greater diversity given the dynamics of easier travel around the world. People now hear of the Cayman Islands. Everybody wants to flock and come here. So things have changed. But these problems that we have today were not created last week. They were not created even last year. They're systemic. Just like our education, the failures in the education system are systemic. The problem is that we continue to do nothing about it at all. Let's take immigration, for example. Okay? The PAT government was supposed to be working on a few things as it relates to immigration. One of the solutions, and one of the proposals, I should say, that was put forward was to require temporary 3-month permits to basically go through the entire process just like you would for like a 1 year, and to eventually do away with 3-month work permits. All right? You remember Chris Saunders said, yeah, this is going to happen, and it never happened. Why didn't it happen? Because the business owners, and you need to sit and think about who those individuals are, sat down and started crying down the place saying, no, you can't do that to us. That's going to be burdensome. That's going to kill my business. You don't understand what that means from a practical perspective, yada, yada, yada. So nothing happened, right? We had an immigration review committee, which Mr. Steve McFeel headed up, and he had a team. They say that they have submitted a report to cabinet, to the government, and that they never did anything about it. We had a committee for, what's it called? Minimum wage. They did a lot of work, looked at a lot of data, came to a lot of conclusions, even went as far as having big time press conference. They were on this show. They were pushing. Submitted the report to the government, and what happened? We can just barely accept one little thing, but we think we need to redo the whole thing all over again. Sexual harassment legislation. Did the needle move with that? Some of it goes back to the fact that, unfortunately, there was too much politicking and politricking going on that people could not focus on the things that we wanted them to focus on. And I'm not going to lay all of the blame on the PAC government, because I am well aware that a good part of what was happening is that the progressives guys were trying to undermine the government from day one. Have you ever gone into a job situation and tried to do your best and tried to do your job, but all someone would do is just undermine you at it? You know how difficult it is for you to get anything done? Raise your hand if you've ever been in that situation. You had someone in your workplace complain to the boss every minute, sneak in, trying to see what you're doing, reporting, cutthroating. Oh, like, we need to get her out of that position, get him out of that position. You can't focus on anything else because you're constantly trying to put out the fires of somebody's trying to come and take my job, instead of you being able to focus on your job. So there's a lot of dynamics. I mean, I don't want to oversimplify this stuff, but believe me when I tell you, there are a lot of dynamics of things that are actually happening. So we're hopeful that now we have this party that is not going to be about cutting throats, backstabbing each other, that they can go in there. They have mutually agreed beforehand that they're going to work with each other. That is a big step. And yes, we do have to wait to see, how is this going to work? No system is perfect. Party politics is not perfect. We've seen the downsides of it before, because you know why? Human beings are not perfect. We are flawed. We are egotistical. All about self, a lot of us, right? We're not able to see the big picture. We're not able to make personal sacrifices for the greater good. We want. I. Not we, not teamwork. And so that transcends all aspects of our life. Personally, professionally, and even in the world of politics. It transcends all aspects of our lives. So you will never have any degree of perfection. There's no such thing. Thinking that you can hold an individual candidate responsible when they're quote unquote not doing their job, and we're going to just fire you just like that and find somebody else. How would that even work? I saw somebody said, oh, hold a by-election. So you want to have elections every 2 years. That's what I'm hearing you say. You know how unrealistic and costly and ineffective that would be? And there's lots of things that you just cannot get done in 2 years. So I come back to this point about managing expectations. I see Alric. Sorry, Alric, I didn't see you there. Let me just grab you. Morning, how are you?
Good morning, how are you?
Yes, I know this is not the conversation that you and I are having, but you were supposed to be here an hour ago.
I thought you had the normal update on your news and...
You know, managing expectations. I expected you to show up at 7:35.
I figured you had a lot of important topics to discuss.
You see what happens when he's not performing? I gotta tell him.
Well, you actually made very good points. It is important to manage expectations, and it's one of the reasons why I always thought that civics and constitution, all that stuff, should be taught from a very young age.
Absolutely.
Because what you're talking about is basically, I think a lot of us weren't told how the Constitution works and what kind of powers ministers have when they get in. And like you mentioned, ministers can't interfere with the civil service. They can't interfere with the workings of government agencies. So sometimes, like you say, managing expectations, you think the MP is supposed to be able to just go into an agency and make them do stuff. But unfortunately, if we were taught the correct things, then we would know that MPs have restrictions. It's up to the board of that agency to basically give instructions to the CEO to get things done. And even when you have a board of an agency, their power is only in relation to the CEO. So you can't go below the CEO and then tell the staff, go fix this or get this license for this person. You can't do it. It's up to the CEO to do those things. So you're absolutely correct. If we were actually taught those things, then we would actually be in a better position to understand what is expected of the MPs. Now, if we want those things to change, we can either change what's in the Constitution and what's in all these other laws, and then we'll get the things that match our expectations.
Well, let me, as someone who has obviously been a candidate yourself, and you've delved into this, I dare say you probably know on a real scale how to manage expectations. So the proposal is this: we should be able to fire an MP at any time that he or she isn't doing their job. How do you see that as a workable position or solution? And I put to the caller, I'm a person who does not believe in reinventing the wheel, because that is a waste of our efforts, resources, and anything else. So I look for examples of where this has been deployed and actually works. And then we can take that model, we can tweak it for us as Caymanians and make it even better. There's nowhere in the world where that, to my knowledge, anybody can correct me if you have an example, where that is actually being done and where that actually works. So how do you envision something like that working, Alric? Or do you think that that's just not a realistic suggestion?
What I researched was, in some states in the U.S., they have recall provisions in their laws. So basically, a certain percentage of voters can vote to remove a politician, and then they have, I guess, by-elections, and they re-elect someone else. They elect someone else for that post.
Right.
I do understand the idea of you removing someone who doesn't perform. But
in the real world, do you know of any recall provisions that actually work? So I'm going to have a quick, while you're talking, I'm just going to have a quick look to see if we can find an example. The US is a hot mess unto their own. But I can't think of any city or state or anywhere that I could say, wow, they're running optimally. They're doing such a great job. And it's because of that recall provision. Yeah.
I'll just be straightforward. I did not look into that part to see the reasons behind them implementing that provision, and whether or not it was effective. I didn't look into that part.
Yeah.
I just looked into what recall provisions looks like and how voters would be involved in affecting the provision. But I think you're speaking from a very practical point, which means that if a politician makes a mistake, and it's not a material mistake, do you then enact the provision then for one small immaterial mistake that doesn't cause harm to someone? Or,
stick a pin right there, Alric. Okay. I want to take this concept of accountability and narrow it down to an example that we actually have that we can talk about. The previous leader, previous premier and leader of the PAC government, said that one of the ways in which we can hold MPs accountable is by having them sign amongst themselves, and it's like a promise to the people, a code of conduct. Okay? Politics in Cayman has gone on for many, many years, and we have never, ever had a code of conduct in place. They drafted samples of this, distributed it amongst the 19 members. This is only 19 people. They gave it to the opposition. That was the progressives, the PPM. They had an opportunity to look at it. Other people have had an opportunity to look at it. And to this day, we do not have a code of conduct for those 19 members, for the MPs. Why? Because I can tell you the progressives would not sign off on it. They would not agree to it. Even when Mr. Panton was able to get his group to say, yes, we need to have this. These are some basic principles. And this would allow us, for example, to hold someone like McKeeva Bush when he goes in there and gets arrested, charged, and convicted and sentenced, to say, no, you can't ever do those things and hold a position like Speaker of the House. We need to be able to hold you accountable. You can't be a minister again. All of these things would be in the code of conduct. It would give them the ability. The same thing that this caller is saying, give you the ability to remove the speaker if he does these certain things. And to this day, we have no code of conduct for our MPs. The most that they could get, and that was by the insistence of Mr. Panton, was a code of conduct for his cabinet. And it was through the code of conduct for his cabinet that he was able to fire Chris Saunders. It was through the code of conduct for his cabinet that he was able to demote Bernie Bush for the shenanigans he was going on with. It was through the code of conduct for his cabinet and caucus that he was able to say to McKeeva Bush when he did his shenanigans again last year or the year before, whenever it was, that you have got to resign. And that's the only, I mean, no one else, to be fair, despite whatever issues they had, no one else was able in the history of politics in Cayman to hold that many members of their government accountable like he did. And yet, you know how critically difficult that was? And in some ways, it contributed to the eventual falling apart of the PAC government because he was trying to hold people accountable. And this is why I say, setting aside party politics, if you look at the individuals and you continue to elect individuals who don't have a track record already of accountability, who don't have a track record already of understanding issues as a business person, they don't have any business acumen, any of these things, you are setting yourself up for failure. Why do you expect people to be able to go into the legislative assembly, to now called parliament, right? And become ministers and do certain things when they've accomplished nothing in their own lives? They're an abject failure. And yet we blame them for when they get in there and they do nothing, they accomplish nothing, they can't perform. We better be looking in the mirror. So I'm saying it's unrealistic to have this whole contract thing. But what I'm also saying is that what we have been doing has obviously not been working for us. And we could do a better job. And that starts with, first and foremost, selecting the best candidates for the job. I'm sorry. Tell me how you people in Bodden Town keep electing John to public office. This man has broken the laws of this country, immigration, pension laws. Every single day, Alric sits in court. Kudos to Alric. I'm going to have to find some money to hire him as my court reporter. Alric sits in court, and he does a phenomenal job reporting on these court cases. He just did another one yesterday about canine securities, right? Owing money for pension, all this kind of stuff. John has done the exact same thing. Alric can tell you that the magistrates sit there and they say, when you take people pension money and you don't pay it into their pension fund like you're supposed to, you deduct from them for insurance and you don't pay their insurance like you're supposed to, that is equivalent to theft. And the legislation needs to be rewritten to reflect that. Start putting some of these people in jail, and they'll get the message that you don't mess around stealing money from your hardworking employees. So that's equivalent to theft. That's a dishonesty offense. Keep in mind that a dishonesty offense is the only offense that if you are convicted of, whether you get jail time or not, precludes you from ever being able to run for public office as a member of parliament. And yet we have a minister of labor who, I'm telling you guys, did it for years and continues to not pay up despite making all this money, continues to not pay his employees pensions. And the people that are in arrears, they do nothing.
Yeah. Could we go back to your point about the code of conduct? Just briefly.
Oh, sorry. Somebody said we got cut off of the radio. I'm not sure. Chad, must have been getting too hot up in here. Just give me 1 second, Albert. Let me just reestablish the radio connection. Give me 1 quick second. All right, let's see if we can.
I hear the people talking. What are they talking about? This world's gone crazy, and I'm trying to find a way out. Nobody knows where we're going, or if we're going at all. Nobody cares if we sin, if we have nowhere to fall. It's a singing symphony, playing as the ship goes down. It's a porcelain epiphany, breaking if it hits the ground. I gotta find a way out. So many questions answered without an answer to tell. Too many things on my mind for anything to go well. It's a singing symphony, playing as the ship goes down. It's a porcelain epiphany, breaking if it hits the ground. I gotta find a way out.
All right, folks. My apologies to our radio listeners. I actually had to turn on my. I realized afterwards exactly what happened. I had to turn on my VPN because I wanted to search something about the U.S. recall provisions, not realizing that that quick click would have actually interfered with the link to radio. So my apologies. I think we're back now, and we should be good. So, I'm saying that there are things, Alric, in our control, things that we can control. And yet, as the electorate and as voters, we have done a really poor job of doing that. So trying to add on to that and say, well, we want to be able to do more. We want more power. I'm saying I have mixed feelings about, because number one, I don't think it's necessarily realistic for us to do some of the things that are being proposed. And if we can't even do the things that we're supposed to do. And I was just giving an example. I don't know how many of our radio listeners heard about that, but I was just giving an example of how we continue to elect people in public office who have criminal records, who don't pay pension and insurance. And, they're breaking the laws despite the fact that magistrates sit there every single day when they have these companies before them and say, not only are you breaking the law, but this is equivalent of theft, in my honest opinion. and nothing, you still vote for those people. So if you're not able to make better decisions about who you vote for and who you put into political office and what it is that we should be looking for in the first instance, if we can't even get over that hurdle, how do we mix to the batch that we as members of this community, as voters, should then be able to fire those individuals? Good morning, caller.
Morning.
Morning, sir.
When you are going to put in place a contingency plan like recall, you need to have maturity in the population, of course, sure. But
Yes.
you also need to have the provision in order to hold politicians accountable. So when the politician is, I don't know, let's say they're breaking the law, like you're describing, you think we should not have a mechanism by which we can remove them from office?
What I'm saying is the proposal that we just fire them whenever we say, okay, they're not performing, and that's how governments work, and that's how you can get it done, just isn't realistic. If you have a recall provision, the recall provision, like anywhere else in the world, will be limited to very few things. And I'm not saying that a recall provision shouldn't be in place and that's not workable, but it's not going to work. And this comes back to managing expectations. It's not going to work how people think. It's not going to be like, oh, well, you're not doing your job. You haven't fixed inflation, so we need to use a recall provision to fire you. Show me where that works.
No, well, that's not what the conversation is about. The conversation is about when you have a minister in government breaking the law.
That's not what the conversation was about. The conversation and suggestion from the caller is when they're not doing their job and delivering on their manifesto, we should be able to fire them.
No, you just can't fire people for any really reason.
So
I know, but
I shifted the conversation to talk about criminality.
But you're not going to the point of saying we need the provision and then specifying the circumstances in which the provision would be useful. And the example would be a minister breaking the law. Let's say the minister is arrested before the court. They're guilty. Should they stay in office? No.
All right.
No.
So my point is that the suggestion that is being made on how and he didn't specify recall provision. He just said, make them sign a contract. And if they don't do the job, we'll fire them. I'm assuming the only way you could possibly.
I heard what he said. Yeah. I'm not saying that I disagree with what you're saying in that you can't just fire somebody for any old reason. I agree with that. But we need the provision for when the circumstances are valid that you need to fire.
And what would those circumstances be? It's not what the caller has in mind.
I just gave you an example.
So criminality, in your opinion, is what a recall provision could be limited to.
Or let's say you form a new party and you promise the public that everything is going to be grand. We're going to work on all of these issues. Let's just pick one. Let's say immigration, and then you have power. You have all the power to address immigration,
right?
And then all you do is find excuses about why you can't address immigration.
And going back to the question of managing your expectations, in your opinion, what would it mean, right, to manage? Let me just understand. When they say, okay, they're going to fix immigration, what does an immigration fix mean to you? That they start a committee to start looking at the issues?
No. You start a party. You come up with an immigration policy that let's say whatever the provision you specify in your campaign. Let's say you're going to address the number of status grants.
Yes.
You're specifying what the criteria, what it is that you say you're going to achieve if you vote for me. Now we're forming a social contract here. And then you get in and you have full power. You have the numbers to make the legislation happen. And you do nothing about it. You're breaching your agreement with the country.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as we know, the Constitution does not include sufficient reasons for a MP to be removed. Right now,
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
so
That's
so
correct.
you so to a certain extent, if you're going to insert the recall provision, that could be an alternative to just amending the reasons for a politician to vacate office.
All right, let's look at this concept of recall provisions. Thank you, Danny. I appreciate your contribution. So just doing a quick cursory search on the topic, right? The U.S. has a recall provision in 19 states, right, that allow recall elections where citizens can attempt to remove an elected official from office at any time. Typically, the recall process consists of gathering a certain amount of signatures on a petition in a certain amount of time. So, of course, there has to be a criteria. And whilst you might feel that someone isn't doing their job, it's just like when it comes to voting time, you have a recall and you come to find out that the other people in your country don't agree with you, then what do? That means that the person is successful in retaining their seat. The details of the recall process do vary state by state. And so now let's look at some of these. So they include areas like California has recall, Alaska, Arizona, they're part of the 19. Okay. So who has been recalled? It has only happened, as big as the United States of America is, as many officials as they have in varying positions, different municipalities and so on, right? They have only successfully deployed or utilized the recall provision, it looks like about 30 times. And a lot of times it was not successful. So you think you can fire someone, as you say. Recall efforts against state legislators are more common, but still unusual. Recall attempts against legislators have gathered enough signatures to trigger an election just 39 times. 11 of those occurred in a single year back in 2011. 45% of all legislative recall elections that have ever occurred were held between 2011 and 2013. Only 8 of those 17 elections succeeded in unseating a legislator. So even the recall provision, which is subject to certain criteria being made, is not all that successful in the places that have it. 8 out of 17, Alaric, do a quick math for me. What percentage of 8 is that? 8 out of 17 is what percentage? And not very good is what I can tell you.
It's over 50.
8
It's over 50.
Is what percentage of 17? Over 50%?
Yeah, it has to be, yeah.
So no, it's actually 47.05%. So you're not even at the 50% mark. So I'm saying in relation to this is people need to be realistic when they say, oh, this is the solution that's going to work for us. Because if it only works, round it up, if it only works half of the time, how effective is that? And it costs money to recall people. So they have a whole list here dating back to 1913, where California Senator Marshall Black was recalled, Edwin Grant, James Owen. The last time in California was 2018. Good morning, caller.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Morning, sir.
All of the political thing concerning politicians and having them removing, putting them there and they're not doing what they're supposed to do. It's very simple to get rid of them. The community that they're serving, they must have meetings and have a preacher and an attorney. And if they don't stand up to what they say, they have a data that they can vote against them and have them out. It's simple. All they're doing talking nonsense back and forth. And it's still going on and it's going to continue going on. It got to be somewhere you can put a stop to it. Joey Hugh is on the radio right now. 12 years. Tell me what he done for his district and his people. David White's song, Call them by names. What afraid of them for?
We call them by names, honey child. That had a problem around here.
Well, and I get some message across to the community to get some meetings.
Yes.
And get these people in control.
Those people, Windsor Park, they still turn around and vote for the PPM just because. They not done nothing from
the PPM supposed to be wiped out this year, as far as I understand.
Well,
they're supposed to take them out. See. They had enough time. They many years. The people, they don't get to call them on the phone. They don't talk to them. They don't want to hear them. They don't want to see them. What is going on here? Mm-hmm. It's a setup for crime or something.
Well, all I can tell you is once again, it comes down to the electorate. You say that, and then I see people. Where's Kyle this morning? He's not in class. He will get on social media and get in the comment section and say, yeah, the PPM was still better. Better how?
The only thing in PPM was better is going in us Alden. We would like him to come back to stand over with these stupid, dumb, brain politicians that go in and out.
No, Bobo.
Well, some people say...
No, he was head of the party. Stick a pin. Let me show you how that logic is flawed.
I know he has some naive ways too.
No, he's not naive. I would never use the word naive to describe Alden.
Well, I call it that. I don't know better. I'm not educated.
No. He is smart. Calculating.
Yes, he is a brilliant politician.
Yes. All right. Then that's not naive. He know how to fool y'all. And that's why you keep voting for him, keep supporting him. He was leader of the party for umpteenth years. So if you're saying that people who fall under the leader were not held accountable and accomplished nothing, how can you not hold the leader accountable? That's nonsense. That don't make no sense. Hold the leader accountable. You say Alden was so great as a leader of the PPM. For 15 years, and they led this country for 12 out of those 15 years, and yet you can say, Joey didn't do nothing, David didn't do nothing, Barbara didn't do nothing. They all fell under him, and they did what he told them to do. Because every time they got into Parliament, I bet you whatever he said was the color of the day, whether it was so or not. If he said this shirt is blue, it didn't matter if it was red. Everybody stood up behind him and said, yes, Alden, it is blue, and we can vote for that.
Well, the Indian chief has the say about the nation.
Then you can't say that they did nothing and you want to hold them accountable, but you don't want to hold him accountable. Something wrong with that picture. Thank you, honey chill.
All right, sweetie. Have a good day.
I appreciate it. You know, Alric, I love that we can have these discussions. I love that caller. I love the previous caller. People really get involved and we're passionate. But at the end of the day, we are all Caymanians and we're here trying to figure this out for the betterment of our country. Not no hard feelings, you know. Okay. Make sure you know. I'm passionate. I know you're passionate, Alric. Denny's passionate. You know, we're all looking for a better way forward. And sometimes trying to figure out the better way forward is challenging each other. Like you say that and I go, okay. You know, I'm always willing. I like people to convince me, honey child. I'm like, convince me. Make your argument. Let me hear it. But if the argument got some holes in it, like that one, you got to hold leadership accountable, or it has flaws in it, then it is what it is, right? The leaders have got to, when you're in a leadership role, you have got to be held accountable for your organization and your team. In the real world, since we're talking about, you know, we want to be able to fire people, in the real world, that's how it happens. Leaders are held accountable. If you are the leader of a company and your company is not performing, they're going to fire you and bring in a new CEO, a new MD. Because clearly they're saying you missing something, honey child. You not got it together. You don't know how to make your team a winning team. And that matters. So if your team has no direction, right? They can't keep it together. You can't yourself hold them accountable for non-performance. Then it is time for you to go. So nobody in their right mind is wishing for Alden to come back. Stay in retirement. Good morning, caller.
Good morning. I'm listening to you this morning. Interesting subject.
You still in Honduras?
Right now, yeah. I got
listen, you know. You better get back home, you know.
Yeah, I definitely. I'm gonna let you know when I'm back because I want some free time on the show because I'm running to, you know.
Aye, no free time for you then, Bobo.
I'm looking for sponsors. You see, this is the thing now.
Yeah, free time gone long time.
They're looking for rich politicians or rich candidates to get in, and now everybody's rich, but with a good heart like me, and able to and willing to do a job. which I
Well,
can
honey
leave to buy
child,
toilet.
you know how it go.
I
You
got
got you got to have the
now.
funds to get this job done. So if you wait, must go now. Listen, I
I'll
heard.
get some.
I can
I'll
tell
get
you
some
something.
sponsors by that time.
No
I'm
man,
come on your show.
I can tell you something. I hear that there's a little area there in Saiba that got some gold bars buried. You know, so you just gotta go find those gold bars, dig them up, and bring them back, K-Man. Declare them now so you don't get in trouble with CBC, and then you're all clear, man. You're good to go.
Yeah, but I need gold bars to go look for the gold bars. You know something. It's a bad thing, and it has to be. Something has to be done about it.
Yes,
it has to be written in the Constitution and make the Constitution work. There, if they don't do what they promised, like Mr. Dana was saying, if they don't do what's on their manifesto or lying, misleading the people on a campaign trail, then they fire them and get rid of them. Because remember now it's 19 of them, so they could have a vote of no confidence and vote them again. And not only the premier this applies for, if the rest of them on each in each one of their constituents that don't do the job, the people got the rights to vote them out. And this is why I say and I support a referendum that doesn't have to be costly. They're blowing this thing out of proportion.
So how? All right, okay, I can challenge you there. Hold on now.
Yeah,
Hold on, Bobo.
Go ahead.
How do you have a referendum that isn't costly? How is that done?
You can have a town hall meeting and get everybody ID that votes and say,
no,
okay,
a referendum has to be done specific to the Constitution. So it's just like holding an election. And you have to have ballots done and all that. That all costs money. How you can have a referendum?
No, but it doesn't. All of that could change according to the Constitution. Got the Constitution write it that way. They write it that way for it to be costly. But you could have us.
Well, the Constitution doesn't dictate the cost of it. The Constitution. Hold on, Bobo. The Constitution doesn't dictate the cost. The Constitution dictates the process so that it can be done above reproach. Because if the process isn't right, that is when people come in and they claim all sorts of things like spoiled ballots and corruption and this and that. So the Constitution only seeks to set down the best, based on international standards, the best guided process of if you have an election or if you have a referendum, this is how it should be carried out within these basic perimeters, which we would say safeguards the integrity of the process. So you can't compromise the integrity of a referendum just because you want to do it on the cheap. I'm just saying.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean because I do it on the cheap that is compromised either. Listen to me now, because you could get it done. You could get it done honestly and legitimately, doing the way that I'm saying, because you can still have these what you call it, people watch and make sure that the process is done right. Even if you do it in a town hall, if you do it in a room, a 5x5 room where everybody goes in there with a voting card and say,
but listen, okay, that's pretty much how it's done now. That's not. I don't think that there's no. Listen, you're not going and voting in a referendum in a golden building like what a premier is spending for the school in Kim and Brack. That is not what's happening here. So it's done as simplistically as possible. I don't think that there's anything that is complicated about the process that makes it overly expensive. But all referendums cost money. It's just the process of doing a referendum and what is required. Now, can we do it any more economically than that? I mean, that's a question for the elections office, I suppose.
Well, that's what I'm saying, and I am of the mindset that it can be done a lot economically, less economically than the way we do it, and that way that would be true democracy, because right there then no politician would say, well, it's not my fault, the people voted for it. It's not my fault, the people voted for it. So then that way we would get honest politicians doing what it's supposed to do then. Because if we're about it, if the public vote for civil, we want immigration reform, we don't want no permits, and we want less people getting status. the vote it comes back in a referendum for that. They got to do what our referendum said. You hold them binding that they bind it's bind against the referendum and what the people say, and they got to do that. They got to proceed to do that. Then nobody not gonna have nothing to say because it's the public voted for it. That's the true democracy. That's true democracy to go.
All right, darling.
Otherwise, you would have to make a law saying, well, you fire them directly. Change the constitution and make a law to say, well, you fire them if they lie. You know, and this 19 constituents said, "Oh, this one man, one vote." That's another problem.
Yeah, well, guess what? People voted for that, though.
Candidates to run. Yeah, I know, but you see the people ignorance for the people together. What you say?
Hold on, stick your pin. Our biggest problem. Listen to me carefully, honey child. Our biggest problem is an ignorant electorate. AKA the voters. Understand me clearly. That is our biggest downfall. But we'll keep educating them as much as we can. Thank you, Mr. Dean. Right. Go enjoy one of them Honduras bananas for me. I hear they got some nice fresh fruit. Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
Nice. All right, honey. Yeah. All right, folks. That's our biggest problem. And that there not no two ways about that. Alric.
Yeah, so just to summarize what you said, I mean, the three options you talked about was having a contract between the MP and the people. And you talked about having a recall provision, and you give examples of how many times that was triggered overseas, and how effective that is. And also, the other option is you could amend this constitution to list other things that would require a minister to step down, certain types of crimes, that would require them to step down. Now, like you say, whether any of that is effective is going to depend on the voters and how the voters vote. So if, like every election around the world, not just unique to Cayman, a guy comes to your house, says, "How your mama doing?" And play dominoes, shares a 6-pack of beer, get you a pack of cigarettes. Now, if after having that interaction and you think that the politician is a nice guy, and then you vote for that politician based on your thought he's a nice guy, but when he gets in, he gets nothing done. Like you say, that person should be held accountable for not getting anything done. And then one of those three options that you've been discussing could be things that could be explored to say whether or not that person should step down. Now, if we took a step further and we researched what did they actually do in office while they were in office, did they accomplish the goals that they set out to accomplish, and why didn't they accomplish those things? Were they not accountable? Were they not transparent during their term of office? We need to look at these things and engage critical thinking to make an informed decision about our vote. So I think we need to move past, "Oh, he's a nice guy, vote for him." We need to say,
Alric, not only that, but sometimes you're voting for people that you know are not even nice people. Like our electorate is not even that sophisticated. We're not even saying this person's a nice guy. Sometimes you know that they're an a-hole, and you know this and that. You know they're crooked, and you're still voting for them because they can come and hand you a little $50 and put in your back pocket. Or he always asking for my mama. It's like, so he don't care about her. So our standards are woefully low. I gotta tell you the truth.
And they could have been higher if we were all taught about the Constitution and those things.
Yes.
And early on in primary school, middle school, high school, if we were taught those things, we would be in a better position to make informed decisions about people in office and seeking office. I hope that it does get put into the schools. Lessons about what is in the
civic
Constitution.
Education. Absolutely.
Yeah, it would help. It will help voters a lot to make better informed decisions. And even if you have someone who checks everything off the list, then you also have to check out their character, right? So,
listen, you better check that first.
So,
I'm just saying, start with character.
Because their character is going to determine whether they're going to go into a backroom deal and get engaged in all these side deals where they make money for their personal interests and not the country's interests.
Absolutely.
So at the end of the day, character is key, you know,
yes,
even after you analyze everything else.
Absolutely. And in case you guys missed a recent editorial vlog on that, please go check it out. It was entitled Character Matters, and it really, really does. And again, you know, we look at, you know, we're talking about political parties and candidates now. They're going to be coming out here shortly. We look at, for example, some people that have come forward that their character has a blemish on it or multiple blemishes and lots of question marks. Josh Parsons, you know, the PPM claim that they vetted Josh Parsons and that they put him forward. You remember what Joey said? Oh, this young man reminds me of myself when I was at his age and when I started at the PPM. Now, I don't know, again, what sort of research Joey did. Caller, you coming in with a lot of noise. Just hold on one second for me. I don't know what kind of research Joey did, but I've never heard anything about Joey putting his hands on women, but yet he's sitting there supporting someone that he claims that he has vetted, right? That he claims he supports and reminds him of himself. And that person has a history, a known history of tons of allegations against putting hands on women, plural. Caller, good morning, honey child.
Give me my personal number, please.
My personal number? 324-1612. Don't call me after 9 o'clock at night. Now, you know, my husband gonna say, don't answer that phone.
No, sir.
All right. Yeah, 324-1612. Oh, that's all he wanted. All right, honey child. So you know what I'm saying, Alric? Yeah. So I don't understand how, you know, even the so-called vetting process for these people leaves a lot to be desired. All right, we have some comments coming in. Let me just read some of these. Give me 1 second here. So this one came in on the WhatsApp. This caller said, people with principles, ethics, character, and understand the difference between right versus wrong and what corruption means and is are needed to lead Cayman, and that in the civil service management tier. Our politics and governance model has been overtly corrupt for a long time. Read the multiple Office of the Auditor General reports that have listed multiple examples for over 20 plus years, yet nothing changes and nobody is charged for alleged official corruption at the highest levels, while excuses, my apologies, are made to protect the system. And to the point again, even one of the Auditor General's reports after the last government got out saying, hey, the PPM should not have been forcing through these contracts and all these things at the last minute, right? These big, you know, earth-shattering, you know, decisions and projects. We see this government this current government doing the exact same thing that the Auditor General has said, don't do that. That's not good governance. Look at this school of opulence. Seriously, for real. What a hot mess. Miss Darlene, good morning. It says busy building their own empires and building themselves up, and talked about from 4 to 5 years. And in 4 years, they can't get anything doing. So busy with their own empire, too busy building themselves up and forget about our beautiful islands and our people. We have a few more comments that have come in. El Rey speaking earlier to the caller who says to hire people and make them sign a contract says, yep, this model is not possible. It would be nice to have, but unfortunately it will never happen because we need to tamper these things with a degree of realism and how they would work. Ron says, completely agree with the caller. It's a much better approach. The reason why very few countries have it is because most politicians don't like the idea of that level of accountability. I mean, you know, accountability and practicality are perhaps two different things, but it has to be workable. Magdalene, good morning. How are you? Says the conclusion that I have is that the civil service has more power than we like to believe. Many changes to immigration were presented to the present and to the many past governments, and nothing has been done. There has to be political will and the backing of the civil service to see your proposed plans fulfilled. Alric, you talked about that, and I know you've actually sat on a number of boards. How difficult, in your opinion, is it for, and you were not a politician, you were just a board member, but how difficult is it to get anything accomplished, in your opinion, when you have to work, even as a board member? You're giving them directives. Do they follow your directives?
Not all the time. So what's really important in this structure is relationships. So although you would think that laws, the Constitution, and policies are the most important, and you should abide by them, what's actually very important is your relationship with people in the structure. And I mean the CEO that your board instructs, and the civil service, public service. It all depends on your relationships, whether those relationships are good. Because the sad thing is, if you don't have a good relationship, someone may decide not to execute the instruction that the board gave. So if there's a good relationship between the board and the CEO, sometimes you'll see things getting done, and then other times you don't. So what I would say is, sometimes it's quite difficult for a board to communicate to a CEO why something is important, because perhaps the CEO has already decided that he thinks another avenue is better than what the board proposed. So in some cases, the actions of a CEO could probably thwart or delay the implementation of a policy that a board has. And the thing is, boards are restricted to instructions to CEOs or managing directors. So if that person decides that they don't like you and they're not going to listen to you, there's nothing you can do about it. You can do performance appraisal, and you can make a note on how they performed, and you can go through certain steps towards that person's performance to determine whether they should stay in that role. You can take all those steps,
right?
But if the head of the civil service, for example, has a good relationship with that CEO, then it could be challenging to have any action taken towards that CEO. So I'm saying, at the end of the day, while you have a constitution, while you may have policies, while you may have laws, it a lot of times it boils down to those relationships between the CEO and head of civil service, or the board and the CEO. So it can be challenging to get things done.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, I completely agree with you. My apologies, Alric. I have my foot just started hurting me, so I need to get my TENS machine. But yeah, no, I mean, those are all salient points. And, it comes back again to people actually understanding how the system works, and having an appreciation of that will temper and help to manage their expectations about what can and can't be done. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the program.
Good morning, Sandy, and good morning, Alric. Very interesting topic, this, and to me, it is reflecting the frustration of the Cayman community as to how to hold people accountable. Because apparently, if you raise an issue today in Cayman, it takes you 20 years to resolve it.
Right.
Today, we are talking about immigration. I came to Cayman for the first time in 2003 during the status grants. That's when it became an issue. And yet, no politician really was ready to deal with it. There were some politicians who ran One in particular, I won't call his name. I think he called a little earlier on your call, on your phone call, and he tried to say, well, let's deal with this thing in a balanced way. And he had some very specific way to deal with it. Nobody was listening to him. And now today, everybody wants to solve the issue because they are granting 40 status grants a week. Now, you see, if you look at the other problem is brainwashing.
Oh,
you
yes.
see, under the what is this? The public service management law. It says, well, you will only give a Caymanian preference if their qualifications are roughly at the same level as a foreign person. Nobody ever does it that way in any country. In all countries, what they say is basically, if the job requires a master's degree and 10 years experience, and you've got a local person who can do it at that level, unless there are other problems, you give it to them, even if you've got a foreigner who's got 30 years experience. Somehow, since that law was enacted, I think around 2009, they are refusing to change that. So at the end of the day, to me, it's corruption, brainwashing, but I think this discussion needs to continue to how to hold people accountable. But let me close on this. You remember this committee which was put together to deal with the immigration issue, which was headed by Steve McField.
Yes, we talked about it earlier. Yeah.
Yes. They removed Steve McField really because he was trying to do what the people want. So there is corruption within, and there has to be a way in which to hold these people by a certain part of their anatomy and make them accountable. I thank you.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, that caller makes, some very, very salient points. The only thing that I would disagree with is our immigration problems didn't start with the status grants. That certainly tenfold, 20-fold made it that much worse because it was such an immediate influx of so many Caymanians, so many people being granted Caymanian status with no vetting at all. And then we find out that some of them were criminals. A lot of those people, now have been in the community for quite some time. And there are some of the same people, along with some of our own, who are abusing the immigration system, who are abusing workers, oftentimes from their own countries. And now we have all sorts of issues as a result of that. So I wouldn't say it started with that, but I think what we had was definitely a hyper, what's the word I'm looking for, Alec? Almost like an increase because of the sheer numbers. It definitely magnified the problem that much more. And it made it, something that maybe 5, 10, 15 years down the line from now, we would have been dealing with. We're dealing with today as a direct result of those status grants. The other thing I would say is, to be clear, it is also not true that there was no one who tried to stand up and stop that situation. We the people. I remember there's a photo that somewhere out there, I've got it, of us protesting on government steps. Remember, Denny? With our signage. Remember Billy Adams? Our wheelbarrows in town. We were doing all kind of protesting against the then UDP government. What did it change? That was 20 years ago. Over 20 years ago. And you guys are still electing the man who's responsible for all that hot mess, McKeeva Bush. I'm just saying. Y'all want to hold people accountable? In my personal opinion, the Caymanian people have had the opportunity to hold people accountable even every 4 years, and we have failed at that. How do I expect y'all to hold people accountable? Recall. Come on now. Be serious.
Let me explain. In order to be able to hold somebody accountable, you need proper mechanisms to do so.
No, before you even get to the mechanisms. You need people. You need people who are capable of doing so. People who are educated on the issues and who are not easily persuaded to do X versus Y. We need the voters themselves to be principled. And we have too many voters in this country, too many Caymanians in this country who are not principled individuals. That's why over the weekend they could sit down and see nothing wrong with just the mere allegation that someone may have been arrested for DUI. Oh, that's no problem because they didn't kill anybody. That is a reflection on us as Caymanians. We don't have a moral compass.
I agree with that. But what you seem to be arguing is until we get a moral compass, we shouldn't have a mechanism to do something about wrongdoers who are MPs. And I'm saying to you, no, these are two separate issues. They both need to be addressed, but you need to have the mechanism in order to remove a politician.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree with you about political maturity. We have a big problem with that in the country.
Mm-hmm. And again, I'm just helping y'all manage your expectations, because we're not going to get far if the electorate are not able to even make the decision. It doesn't matter what provisions you haven't put it in place, and see how ineffective it will still be. And then y'all will find another way to complain about that. I'm just saying.
A core part of education should be civic and financial literacy.
Yes.
But there are separate issues from other things that we also need, which is recall.
Mm-hmm.
Recall in and of itself isn't going to solve anything.
Yeah.
I agree with that. But that is not an argument to say we should not have recall.
Mm-hmm.
The same way that we have...
Like I said, I'm just managing people's expectations, that's all.
The same way we have provisions in the Constitution that disqualifies people from... You wouldn't say, well, we're not going to put it in there because they're not going to follow it. No, you put it in there because, that's what should be done. Now, how you're able to hold them accountable, it's not quite the same as somebody coming and work for your, let's say, landscaping business. That's not the same type of employment dynamics that would be going on with an MP.
Mm-hmm.
However, whatever it is that you're going to do to hold somebody accountable, you need to have a mechanism by which you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, we don't have a mechanism, and we should have a mechanism.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Okay.
Take care.
Thank you. Tartarian, having a little chuckle, says, hold them accountable by a certain part of their anatomy. That was very diplomatic. He knew, I think, that technically we're still on air. Now we're off radio. So he could have said, hold them accountable by their gonads. Still diplomatic. Alric, I know time is short for you this morning. You're going to go cover a press conference for us.
Yes, World, I think, Doping Agency. Yeah, Hilton.
Indigo.
Yeah, sorry, Indigo. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for coming in the program. We didn't actually get to talk about what we were going to talk about, but perhaps we could revisit that. So Valeska says you cannot use morality to govern a nation because not everyone has the same level of morality, and forcing a standard of morality onto an individual is against their human rights. Maybe morality isn't the right word, but I think the bottom line is if we hope to hold our elected officials accountable and we want them to be, law-abiding people who, are principled, et cetera, the electorate can't be rogue and expect that to happen. That's never realistic. So my thing is, if the electorate has no standards whatsoever, it's a free-for-all. We believe in running things, however, and being criminals and yada, yada, yada. How can we expect those who represent us to be any different? At the end of the day, perhaps the most important lesson is those people reflect who we are as a community. I'm just saying. So look at those people, and they are a reflection on a smaller microcosm level of who we are as a community. Alric?
Well, great shot, and I'll leave you there. Gonna head down to Indigo.
All right, my dear. Have a good one.
Okay, you too.
All righty. So, yeah. Darlene says our voters need to stop falling for disrespectful, deceiving, deceitful, backstabbing, promising politics. And, like I said, maybe we have one too many people in the community at large that fall into that category. So they don't see anything wrong with that behavior. And that's how they can continue to look the other way and excuse the behavior. What a hot mess. Everybody good? Instagram folks, y'all good over there? Yep, y'all behaving. Not too many. The Instagram folks, they just listen. They don't tend to comment too much. Raffo on Instagram says, sounds like something called the deep state to me. Shocking. Any other comments on IG? I think that's it. Everybody else just kind of watching. Oh, Aiden says, how did committees and data change the system? The system remains unmoved. Until the interests are rightfully challenged, nothing will change. All right. Let me see if I missed anything else over here. I think that's it. Nathasia, I think it is, says, I love the tagline. I hope that they do what they say in the video. All right, folks. So in case you've been living in a hole in a wall, deep in the bushes, you would know this morning that the first political party for the 2024, April 30th, 2024 general election has come out. The Caymanian Community Party. I think even their name says a lot, obviously, about, what they're trying to say about who they are. And I think, that's good. Now, we will all be watching and waiting and, seeing what we get. But I think the other amazing thing, folks, is today now is the last day for you to get registered to vote. So I am imploring you, the good folks of the Cayman Islands, do not let this opportunity to vote pass you by. You've got to get out there, and this is the first step in potentially being part of the solution. Okay, you can't be part of the solution if you're not even registered to vote. So go out there, ensure that you're registered. You can go online, check and ensure that you're on the voters registration list. If you're not and you need to reach out to them, by all means, please do so. Young people, your vote matters. I hear too many of you saying that, you don't care, you're not going to vote because nothing ever changes. Things do change, believe it or not. Sometimes they're changing for the worse, and that's not what we want. So I would implore you to go out there and get registered, my apologies, to vote. At least you'll have the option come April 30th, and then you decide on that day whether or not you will be, whether or not you will be electing to use your right. It's a right that people fight and die for all over the world, the right to vote. So don't take it lightly. It's serious business. It's a serious responsibility. And so today now is the deadline. I want to show this little video from the elections office to please go out and register to vote.
Many of you don't know how to register to vote or think it's too complicated. Well, we are here to tell you that it's just one application form that you can fill out online, and it is fast.
It's faster than the time on your daily scroll.
It's faster than your lunch break.
Faster than your gym sesh.
First, locate your official documents. Airball knows where they are, right? Right? Next, double check your district at elections.ky under the boundaries maps. Knowing this will speed up your registration process. Now it's time to register. Complete your application form, upload your documents, and hit submit. That's it. It's just one form, and now you're registered to vote. Let's stay empowered. So come on, Cayman youth. Register today.
All right, folks. So again, you can go out there and get registered to vote. The website, you can do it online. There's really no excuse. I think with the online option, deadline is definitely today. We encourage everyone, take your children out, encourage them to get registered to vote. So January 15th, that's today, my darlings. Let's do it. All right. So I think we can end the program there. Thank you for Alric. Thank you to Alric, my apologies, for coming on the program. It's good to have guests on. I think that we will be getting together our political commentators coming up into the election. So anybody interested in joining the CMR team in terms of that, please do so. Reach out to me. I'd love to have, this discourse, I think, is so important for us. We need to challenge each other. We need to challenge why we say certain things, why we think the way that we think, because that is how, as individuals and as a community, how we can hope to mature. And there's a lot of maturity that has to take place. So Tartarian says, yes, please go out there and register to vote. Let's do this. So get registered. The elections office is conveniently located. They have ample parking there, actually, but they're there in the right across from the wharf. What is that building? Bayshore Plaza. They're there in that building. So you can, like I said, you don't even have to leave your living room. You can literally do it online as well. So getting registered to vote is how you can certainly be a part of the solution and not the problem. Okay. Thank you so much to all of you again for commenting and watching the show today. Mr. Howard, how are you doing today? Good to see you. Just seeing if I missed any of the more recent comments. Justice will be served, says contractors control immigration, who to send home when they don't want to pay money. Audit politicians before you vote for them. Okay. All right. All right, folks. That's what we got. You guys have a fantastic day, Wednesday. So tomorrow, don't forget, tune in early. Tomorrow, this new party, the Caymanian Community Party, will be on the program. And that's your opportunity to ask them questions. So definitely tune in then, and we'll see them at 7:30. Good. All right.
When we were growing up, things were different. We were a tight-knit community. Family lived close by. Neighbors took care of neighbors. But slowly, things changed. Now, it's all slipping away. Cayman is growing too fast, and too many Caymanians are being left behind. We are losing not just our islands, but our way of life. Costs are skyrocketing. Food, medicines, health insurance, housing. Families are struggling to afford basic needs. Today, we Caymanians are a minority in our own country. We learned some hard truths. We saw up close how special interests can control our country. We tried to stand up for what is right, to stand up for our community, and to stand on principle. Sadly, there were too few of us. Enough is enough. That's why we're coming together with people that share our values to form the Caymanian Community Party. This isn't about politics as usual. It's about people. We are a movement built by Caymanians, for Caymanians, and focused on strengthening our Caymanian community. Caymanians deserve the opportunity to vote for a party with a clear set of values and ideals. A party that listens to their voices, represents their values, and stands united in advancing their interests. It's time to make the tough decisions to reclaim the Cayman Islands we all love. We support growth, but it needs to be balanced. We stand for a strong economy. We stand for making sure Caymanians come first in our own country, where every Caymanian now and in the future can afford a home. We stand for fiercely protecting our Caymanian culture, our heritage, our quality of life, and our natural environment. This means addressing the cost of living by transitioning to clean energy, building efficient, affordable homes, and lowering the cost of health insurance. It means transforming our children's education so they can get the jobs they deserve in a rapidly changing world. It means a strong, stable government that gets things done and is committed to fiscal responsibility, good governance, and sustainability. we believe in the power of community to create meaningful change that benefits our people. Join us. We are the Caymanian Community Party, putting Caymanians first.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of The Cold Hard Truth on Bobo 89.1 FM. Cayman's #1 talk show is live weekdays from 7:30 a.m. Never miss an episode again. Watch anytime on CMR's Facebook and YouTube channels for the latest show episodes. Don't forget to follow us online on our social media channels. And visit CaymanMarlRoad.com for all the latest news and community happenings.